So when working with a partner, what is any pros and cons that you want to, throw out there for our viewers, just learning about, how to get, I guess, find that bond or find that chemistry that works between you and a partner.
Yeah. So it goes back to what I was saying regarding some of the psychological components. So now having an extra person, now you have to understand interpersonal skills a bit better. And to be quite honest with you, debaters, even though they're great at communication, they're not that great at interpersonal skills. And so sometimes they don't know how to talk to people that well. And so I have to learn how to navigate relationships with other people outside of myself at times and become better at just like socialization. And so talking to someone else, learning who they are, some of that can be a con, some of that can be a pro, depending on how you take it. I think I take it both ways, depending on who my partner is, to be quite honest with you. No. But I think overall, it's pretty nice because you're not just on your own. Someone is there to back you up. Like if you make mistakes, someone else can clean up your mistake for you. At the very least, be there to talk it through with you.
Got it. So do you have any like favorite speakers? I mean, I know maybe, I don't know if there's like a group of people who are still up on the know of like who's who in college debate, but like, are there any favorite speakers that you have out there?
Yeah, in college debate, I would say that I enjoy the Rutgers team. So I'm always going to be a fan of Rutgers just because like a lot of the people there have been from like university science, a bunch of Newark schools. So I enjoy just watching the Rutgers team debate. I still watch them debate to this day. So like David Jay, for instance, I really like how he debates. I also think that in terms of like celebrities, I'm a big fan of people like Dave Chappelle or Trevor Noah. I just like watching public speakers who are funny, humorous, but at the same time making a political point.
Okay. I love Trevor Noah, by the way, as well. So definitely, I definitely understand what you're trying to say. So tell us, what is something you've learned or experienced while trying to balance school, work, debate, that you think will be a lot or something meaningful for a young debater to hear?
I think people have to learn how to take a break when well needed. I feel like for me, in my high school experience, especially my senior year, I just did debate back and forth every weekend, and it was not healthy. And so balancing that with academics, balancing that with like outside jobs, for instance, it just gets exhausting. And so it's okay to tell yourself that, hey, I'm taking a break. You might not be quitting, but you're taking a break. And sometimes it's okay to quit too. I feel like people just need to be told that quitting is not the end point. You can continue to do whatever you want to do. You're just switching whatever your goals might be. And so taking a break when you feel like you're overexhausted or overwhelmed is definitely essential.
Okay. And so, have you, in your spare time, I know that you're still competing in college, do you get into coaching at all, like to high school students?
Yeah, so I've been coaching for the past 3 years while I'm in college. So I coached my high school actually for 2 years. And so I helped some of those teams. I've also coached different schools around. Currently, I coach Berkeley Preparatory, which is this private school in Florida. And we do a lot of remote e-learning. And so I've just been coaching back and forth.
Nice. And how has that transitioned from debater? I mean, even though you're still technically a debater at the same time, but from debater to coach, how is that working for you?
I like it, honestly. I think I like being a coach more than I do a debater at times, to be quite honest with you, just because it's a little bit more objective. It's less exhausting, to be quite honest with you. And it's also, you're getting the benefit of educating someone else, and I enjoy it.
Yes, listen, I've been a head coach, if you will, for it really, if you look at the years, I guess you want to say 2 years, but really 4 school years.
Yeah.
So I now know what that feels like. I've always done like a little assisting here and there to other kids in Newark, but that like you said, that feeling of being coached and really imparting some type of wisdom or knowledge on someone else to take and see what they can do with it is really, it's really rewarding. Really rewarding, especially when they're, giving back to, other kids here in the city of Newark. It's even more.
I definitely agree. I just get the rewarding experience out of it. I really love it.
Yes, definitely, definitely. So let's shift gears a little bit. So what are you currently studying at Wake Forest?
So I'm a sociology and religious studies major with a minor in education at Wake.
Yeah. And what do you think or possibly may have plans for in the future?
So I'm still confused about my future goals, not gonna lie. I'm trying to figure that out myself. But I do want to work with students, particularly like traumatized youth and education. And so I want to work on educational curriculum deployment, educational policy, and just focus on kids with trauma, kids who come from backgrounds that have a lot of environmental stressors. Like they have parents who did not care for them properly, or they just had like issues of bullying, things like that. That's what I really want to prioritize. I'm not quite sure what that looks like in a career path as of yet, because there's just so many different options to take, but that's what I want to focus on in the future.
Wow, interesting. So would that require, it sounds crazy, but would that require some sort of master's or doctoral work maybe?
I definitely intend to go to graduate school. It's either to get my master's. I thought about getting my JD and going to law school and being an educational attorney. But like I said, it's still all up in the air for me right now.
Okay, nice. So have any of the skills that you have learned in debate, have they been helpful in, so far in this field of life that you are in? Has it shown itself, 10 times fold in any aspect?
Yeah, definitely. I think debate teaches you how to finesse things more. And so I learned how to finesse via debate, whether it be my papers. I know how to cram out a paper. Give me like 3-5 hours. I can cram out like a good 8-page, 10-page paper if you wanted me to. And so debate really just teaches you how to push things out and then just find your resources, your references as quickly as possible. I'm a lot more confident with presentations now. I wasn't as much before. Like, don't get me wrong, I still get kind of nervous, but if you ask me to do a presentation, I can do it immediately. No issue, just because I'm so used to public speaking. And so I definitely appreciate those skills that I've developed.
Of course. So tell us, what are some of your short-term goals that you may have at this moment?
Yeah, I think some of my short-term goals are probably just doing well in college right now. So I just want to focus on getting my grades up to par and then meeting my requirements for what I want to do when I get into graduate school, just because I want to get into a really good graduate school and hopefully get good financing for graduate school. And I'm also hoping that my jobs prosper. I'm focusing on possibly, hopefully, if the COVID-19 situation clears up, studying abroad my senior year.
Ooh, nice.
And so I've just been applying for different applications to study abroad and look at that.
So have you been casting your net virtually all over the globe, or is it somewhere particular that you are most likely interested in?
I've never been out the country. I honestly don't mind wherever I go, but I would hope I can go to South Africa one day. I think it goes back to me loving Trevor Noah, but I really want to go to South Africa at one point.
Hey, you never know. You may be on, visiting family one day when you finally go to South Africa. Who knows?
Yeah.
But definitely, that sounds really, really cool. What about any like long-term goals necessarily?
I think some long-term goals for myself is just that I want to have a steady career in the future. And so I'm not one of those people who are just like, you need to have a career by 25, because oftentimes I find that people are just very indecisive. Like, you're never going to have your whole life figured out by a certain age. But I want to have a level of financial stability and just to really enjoy whatever my career pursuit is. I also just want to travel a little bit and meet some of my short-term goals. So like studying abroad or just going out and exploring the world and developing that experience would just be amazing. I also want to learn Spanish and become fluent in Spanish. Like my Spanish is very mediocre, and so just developing it a bit more is something that I want to focus on.
Got you. That sounds great. So you don't have to be like, un piquito, I don't really know. You're like, oh no, I can totally have a whole conversation with you.
Yeah.
So great. So last few questions, of course. So for students, especially, right? It's kind of difficult sometimes for them to grasp the concept of a goal, right? And how to go about realistically creating that.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about creating your goals? Like, what's the process you go through in your mind, and how do you ensure that those goals become not only realistic, but achievable?
Yeah, so I'm a planner. I do extensive planning. Like I write down little notes about the things that I want, and then I have a plan A, plan B, plan C, and then I make sure to plan that all. Obviously, I don't think that everyone else has to be as meticulous as I am about that, but I do think that people should at the very least try to envision what they would desire out of it and then come up with concrete steps. Because I find that sometimes people just have an abstract goal, but not the plan to get to said goal. And you need to work on both, because not having a plan just means that your goal will never actually be accomplished. And so finding the different pathways, talking to different people who have actually achieved your goal or who are close to achieving your goal, or who just think that your goal is an amazing idea, like getting those connections, finding different resources, and discovering what the process looks like would definitely help people. I also think being realistic to a certain degree, but also just not cutting off the possibility of attaining whatever your goal might be. Because sometimes people take their realism so far that they are just like, we can never do this, or it will never be accomplished. You can't tell yourself that it's going to fail before you even try to do it. At the very least, make the attempt and make the effort at doing it before you just quit, you know? And so putting in the effort, not trying to reject yourself before you even make the attempt, all of those things would probably help people accomplish their goals more.
Okay, nice. So if you can recommend a book for our viewers to read, what would it be and why, of course?
Yeah, so one of my favorite books in high school that I had to read for like a project for my courses is Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye. And for people who are not familiar with it, it's about this young Black girl named Pecola who is pretty much abused by her entire family. And she's abused because of the color of her skin, because they didn't really want her to begin with. And it just goes through the social nuances of being a young Black girl in America and wanting blue eyes and seeing whiteness as being the perfection of beauty. And it's a fictionalized account, but one that I think a lot of young Black girls and a lot of just young women of color, young Black people in general can sympathize with and empathize with, just because it tells a narrative or it tells a depiction of what being Black in the United States looks like to begin with.
Toni Morrison, she's like, I miss Toni Morrison, okay?
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, when she passed, I was crying. Like one of my favorite writers ever. So last thing, Brianna, if you could leave us with a personal quote, what would it be? Like something you would, or something you would like to potentially be remembered by, I guess.
So that one's a hard one, but so I have this tattoo, for instance, and this tattoo is a symbol of what it means to, it's the word Sankofa, and Sankofa is a concept that basically means go back and fetch it in English. And basically, go back and fetch it is an implication or the implication of go back and fetch it is just go back to your past and remember how your past helps determine and shape your present and your future. And oftentimes it's attached to concepts of like negritude, Afrocentrism. It's about what can Black people do to envision something for themselves while at the same time remembering where they came from. And so I think that people have to remember where they came from, because that helps determine what exactly you're doing in the future, or how exactly you can help people in the future, or how exactly you want to change and shift where you came from to have a different goal and a different aspiration to the future itself. And so definitely Sankofa is kind of what I live by, but also just what I want people to remember. Your past does not necessarily define you, but you should always remember it because it would help determine and help guide you for the future itself.
Wow. I love, Sankofa is very strong, very strong. But thank you, Brianna, and sadly, you all, that is all the time we have today here at the Newark Debater. But thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come chat with us, Brianna. We totally appreciate it. Obviously, always great to be back home, or semi back home with us, I guess, if you will. But before we go, we like to play games here at the Newark Debater, and we want to play a little game with you that's called Block Book, okay? Now, with all the recent privacy concerns surrounding social media usage and comment violations, internet trolls, and lack of boundaries online, we're going to list a few names, and we have decided whether or not they should or should not be allowed to have a social media page to express themselves 100% freely. Please give us a why and and what one of their posts might look like, if you will.
Okay. Sorry, were you gonna say something?
No, I was like, do you want me to restate it?
Oh, no, I got it.
You got it? Okay, cool, great. Awesome. So the first one is SpongeBob.
I think SpongeBob should have a social media page, honestly. Childhood icon. But also, I just think that SpongeBob has a lot to offer. I think SpongeBob taught life lessons to young children and to different people. And I think that there's a lot of analysis that we can get from watching the show SpongeBob and seeing his interaction with Squidward, Patrick, and just the entire crew at large. So I affirm that.
All right. Donald Trump.
Yeah, that was complicated. So I think that he should have a social media, even though I don't agree what he has on his social media, just for very much so the sake of people being cognizant of what he's writing and what he actually thinks. Because if you don't get the president posting online, or at the very least making public statements, then we just don't really know what they truly believe. And so it allows for us to just be very much so aware about where his thoughts and opinions lie. And so I think the publicity, although it can be damning, sometimes does help.
Got it. Steven from Steven's Universe.
Okay, I'm not a fan. I haven't really watched Steven's Universe, so I'm just going to go with no, just to be that person.
Got you. Stewie from Family Guy.
Stewie's humorous. I really like Family Guy. So I think Stewie will say some very messed up things, but I think I'll be amused by what he says, and I'll find humor in it. So yeah, I'll go for it.
Cool. And last, but certainly not least, Kanye West.
Yeah. I think Kanye is a very troubled character, honestly. I think he has issues that he has to resolve himself. I think he should have a social media still, though. It's just a question about whether or not his supporters find everything in his social media still something that they should look towards. I think I've seen some people cut Kanye off. I think I've seen some people who are just like, Kanye has a lot of mental illness. It really depends on your take, and I think he should still have a social media to express himself, even though I don't agree with everything that he says.
Yes, yeah, I hear you. Well, Brianna, thank you so much again. This is all the time we have for today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the Newark Debater. This has been great. Remember, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, you can email us at thenewarkdebater@gmail.com. And thank you again so much for showing up. And we'll catch you next time on the next episode.
Thank you.
Thanks.